All right, CAD 101. We're gonna finish up the example one part today, and we're gonna start by looking at the criteria list by which you're graded. So I'll zoom in a little bit more on this, um, and then we'll go over all the tools um, and all the features you need. Okay, so drawing uses construction lines to locate features. So we went over construction lines pretty in depth yesterday. Drawing uses different layers to organize different line types, construction, dimensions, etc. So we went over that. We've got a construction layer, we've got a hidden layer, and then we've got our zero layer. Today we're going to add a dimensions layer as well. Drawing has all necessary dimensions included in the drawing. So all of the dimensions, so in the drawing set on example one, you're given, let's just go over to that real quick. You're given all of these dimensions. So all of these dimensions that are included are necessary dimensions. So you need to communicate all those to, whoever your client or customer is. So I'll be looking for all of the dimensions that are included in the drawing included in your part as well. We'll talk about, you can just kind of copy the placement of those dimensions as seen in this drawing. We are going to talk later about dimensioning and standards for dimensioning and how drafters decide where to put their dimensions. So as you can see, there's a bunch of dimensions on this view, the front view. There aren't any dimensions on the right side view, and there's one dimension on the top view. Just go with that for now, and then we'll talk later about how you make these decisions about where to put dimensions. Okay. Drawing accurately represents and lines up all three views. So your drawing should, let me go over to AutoCAD. Your views should line up, vertically. These lines line up, your features line up, side to side they line up, and you can tell if they line up when you turn on your construction layer, because I can see your construction lines and I can tell if your views line up. It's pretty easy. Okay, back to the criteria list. All right. All necessary line types are included. All right, so we've got, just as a quick review, the line types. We've got hidden lines, we've got construction lines, we've got the drawing lines, and today we're going to talk about two different other lines, and I'm going to start with that right now. So this, from the drawing set, you can tell is a hole that goes all the way through the block. And if you look at our hidden lines over here, that also indicates that that is a hole that goes all the way through. Otherwise, you would have a hole, a dotted line, and then another dotted line that represented the bottom of the hole, and then it would continue up there, and you wouldn't have the ones down here. To kind of illustrate the center point or the center line, center axis of that cylinder, we're going to use a center line. So to do that, we're going to move from the Home tab. We're going to go over to the Annotate tab up at the top left corner. So Annotate and Center Line is a very simple tool. Click Center Line, and then it says Select First Line. You're going to select the line on one side, select second line, select the other one, and it puts in a center line which indicates the axis of that cylinder. You can, when you click it, you can, if it was, let's say, overlapping something or not quite in the right place, you can stretch these out a bit to make that center line more apparent. And it's fine that these extend past it's typical that a center line will extend past your object to indicate that invisible axis, basically. So we're going to have a center line here. We're also going to have a center line indicating the same cylinder up here. So we'll click this, and we'll just leave that one for now. Any circle on a part, through hole, even not a through hole, you can put on a center mark. So you click center mark right there, and you get a center mark. So these are helpful when dimensioning because they'll help your the person looking at the drawing identify where you're dimensioning to. So it might not be clear that you're dimensioning to a center point if you didn't have this in there. So it's just a point of clarity for dimensioning and identifying that center point. So, okay, so those are the two additional kind of line types that we use quite a bit and we'll use from now on. All right, so now we're just going to add some dimensions. We're going to go back to the Home tab. We're going to go to Layers. And as you can see, I've already added my dimension layer. Usually dimensions, I leave as continuous, or I always leave as continuous, and I usually make my dimensions like kind of a cyan, teal color. It shows up pretty good on a black background. The colors that are difficult are darker colors. So if you choose a dark red or a dark blue, it's really difficult to see on a dark background. So I prefer to use kind of brighter colors that have a little bit kind of pop, so to speak. And then once you do that, you can grab your dimension tool up here, and you're going to click the points that you want to. Oh, I didn't make my dimension layer my active layer, so let's do that. Dimension. Actually, you know what? Let's make it on the wrong layer because I don't think I've shown you guys this. We're going to create a dimension. I'm going to do that. Okay, you might realize that something in your drawing you want to be on a different layer. And that's a pretty simple process. You click and highlight the object, and then you click the layer that you want it to be on, and it goes onto that layer. So you don't have to delete the object, switch layers, then go back and redraw the object. You can just click the object or objects. You can window a whole bunch of objects and put them on different layers. It's pretty straightforward. And then it goes right back to your standard layer that was active before. We're going to make this our active layer now. And as you can see, it's really helpful to be able to turn layers on and off. It would be really confusing to have our construction layer on right now. There'd be too much going on. Your snaps would snap all over the place. They would snap to things you don't want them to snap to. So that's another reason that layers are really nice. Eventually, when we get really complicated parts, you might even put construction layers for different views or different sections of a drawing on different layers so that, one corner of your drawing might be really busy with a lot of construction lines. You might just create a whole new layer as you're working on another part of the drawing, just to keep it more organized and easy to see. So, all right, so then you're just going to go ahead and start clicking away. On different things in the drawing. The last thing I'm going to talk about is precision. So when we talk about precision in dimensions, what we're talking about is the number of decimal points after, or the number of places after the decimal point, rather. So this has three number places after the decimal. That's down to 1/1000th of an inch. That is that's a really tight tolerance, and I think the default when you start dimensioning your stuff I think it's um, four number places, which is uh, insanely precise, which we don't need. That's kind of overkill. When I worked in in the sheet metal shops that I worked in, and when I worked in fabrication and machining, usually things are precise down to 3 decimal places, so a thousandth of an inch. Um, you would never go more than 3 decimal places. If you're working on larger parts, so if you're working on a floor plan in construction, you might go down to 1 decimal place or 2 at the most. And we'd probably switch to, at that point, to fractions, because that's one of the industry standards. But it depends on the industry or parts that you're working on, the level of precision you're trying to achieve. And you kind of want to match that level of precision in your drawings. So I think the default in AutoCAD is 4 places, which I'm going to have you change. So I'm going to do this twice because there's kind of a lot of clicking in here. We're going to go to the annotation tab underneath down here. Then we're going to go to standard, which is the second one down, and it says dimension style. We're going to click that. Then we go down to manage dimension styles. Then we go over to modify. A lot of clicking. And then it opens up this window. And then we go over to primary units. You could also adjust your text on the different tabs. You can see the different adjustments, lines, symbols, stuff like that. We will get into this later, but for now, we're just going to do the precision. So right now I've got 3. You can adjust that. Yours is set to 4 by default usually. Let's go ahead and adjust ours back down to 3. And we'll say OK. And everything will update on your drawing. So I'm going to click through that again. So we're going to go to annotation. We're going to go to the second menu down, manage dimension styles, modify, primary units, and then precision right there. And you can go ahead and adjust that. Okay, so let's get those adjusted down to 3 decimal places. And then you can go ahead and add in all of your dimensions where they should be. And let's see, so if we're going to dimension a circle, you just need to click the circle and it will give you a diameter. If you click a radius, it'll give you a radius. And so you can kind of specify. So this is kind of like the smart dimension, but if you are not happy with what it's giving you in smart dimensions, you can come over here and you can select linear dimension, you can select angular. You have the option of manually selecting your dimension type. So, okay. So if you get, these 3 views, you're all good. You don't have to draw that isometric up here. We'll concern ourselves with that later. And that should cover your the criteria list in terms of what you're being held accountable to on example 1. So you guys can go ahead and finish up example 1, and you can go ahead and start example 2. So example 2, there are only 2 views. So we don't have, actually, no, I take that back. Sorry. You're only given 2 views, but you're responsible for drawing 3 views. So given these 2 views, you should be able to extrapolate and figure out that right side view as if you're looking from this direction. So again, a 3-view drawing, all done in the same way that we did this one, construction lines, stuff like that. And I will put that assignment in D2L. So again, if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk to you soon.